All right, today we're going to break down the FBC three-step plan. It's a framework that says it offers a totally new way to get control over your financial future. So let's dig into their source materials and see what it's all about. So to kick things off, I've got a question for you. If you were to guess, what are the two single biggest expenses you'll face in your entire adult life? I bet your mind immediately goes to the big stuff, right? Like your house or maybe your cars. Well, according to this plan, that's not quite right. The answer, and this might surprise you, is taxes and financing. And when they say financing, what they really mean is all of the interest you pay on every single loan you take out, ever. The plan basically frames these two things as the biggest leaks in your financial boat, and that's exactly the problem this whole strategy is designed to solve. Okay, so first things first, let's really get a handle on the scale of the problem as the FBC plan sees it. This first section is all about visualizing what they call the lifetime financial drain, using a pretty straightforward example from their materials. So to keep the math easy, the plan sets up this hypothetical. Just imagine someone earns about $50,000 a year for 40 years. That gives us this nice round number to work with, a total lifetime income of $2 million. The big question is, where does all that money actually go? Well, according to their calculations, the first huge chunk to disappear is taxes. We're talking everything: federal, state, payroll, sales tax, the whole shebang. In this scenario, that adds up to a pretty staggering $593,000 over a person's working life. But then comes the second piece, and get this, it's even bigger than all the taxes combined: financing. And remember, this is just the interest payments, not even the actual stuff you bought. We're talking interest on your mortgage, car loans, student debt, all of it. In their example, it's a massive $800,000. Now, this is where you can really see the impact. It's like your $2 million lifetime pie is getting carved up right in front of you. Financing eats up a whopping 40%, and taxes take another 30%. You know what that leaves? Just 30% of everything you've ever earned. That's about $607,000 for you to actually live on. So that's the problem they lay out, and it's a pretty big one. So what's the solution? Well, this next part gets to the very core of the plan, and it's all about how you can start reclaiming that money that's leaking out. This quote right here, this really captures the entire idea. The argument they're making is that financial freedom isn't necessarily about going out and earning more and more money. Instead, it's about gaining real control over the cash that's already flowing through your life. Okay, so if it's about control, not just income, how do you actually get that control? Well, that brings us to the real nuts and bolts of this whole thing, the actual three-step framework that the FBC plan lays out. The whole strategy really rests on these three pillars. First, you set up a family business. The main goal here is to save on taxes by using business deductions. Then, that business becomes the foundation for step 2, establishing your family bank, which is basically the financial engine of the whole system. And finally, step 3, which they say is optional, is joining a network to bring in even more income. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That family bank idea sounds a little abstract, right? Thankfully, the source material gives us a super practical case study to make it really clear. So let's walk through it and see exactly how it's supposed to work. Okay, so here's the setup they use. Imagine a family member has 10 grand in credit card debt, and they're paying a painful 18% interest rate on it, which, let's be honest, is a situation a lot of people find themselves in. So here's how the money moves. The family business uses its family bank, which is a high cash value insurance policy, and takes out a $10,000 loan from it at 6% interest. Then, the business turns around and lends that same money to the family member, but at 9%. You see what happened? The family member just cut their interest rate in half, and the business created a 3% profit for itself, which works out to $300 before taxes. And here's the final bottom line. You take that $300 profit, you account for taxes, they use a 12% rate in this example, and the family business is left with a net profit of $264. And that's from just this one single transaction. So let's just recap what this one move actually accomplished. First off, the family business made a profit, which is great. Second, the family member saved a ton of money on interest. But here's the most important point, according to the plan. All of that interest money is now staying inside the family ecosystem, instead of just flying out the door to a big credit card company. Now, this is a really key point for understanding their strategy. They position this high cash value whole life policy not as a personal retirement account, like a Roth IRA, but as a generational wealth system. They point out that you can borrow against the cash value while it's still growing, it isn't exposed to market risk, and it can pass on a tax-free legacy. These are all things that a Roth IRA just isn't designed to do.
Okay, we've gone through the numbers, the steps, the nitty-gritty, but let's just zoom out for a second. Let's look at the big picture. What's the main idea holding this entire strategy together?
It honestly all boils down to this one core message. The entire philosophy is about capturing money that was going to disappear anyway, to taxes, to interest, and instead redirecting it to build up assets inside your own family's financial structure. And this all leaves us with one last big question that really gets to the heart of this entire philosophy. Is financial freedom really about the quest to earn more and more? Or is it about learning to control more of what you already have? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.